Hello, friends, and welcome to episode number 60 of a Disney Life podcast. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Missy, and I am here with my co host, as always, Rachel. Hi, Rachel. Great to see you today.
Good to see you too, and I'm very excited for today's episode.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Because today's episode is all about two specific experiences that my family recently had out at Disneyland Resort. And they are our experience at World of Color Dessert Party and our lunch that we had at the very exclusive Club 33. So, in today's episode, we will talk all about that. We appreciate you being here to listen. We do have a couple little new things that we wanted to touch base on before we got into things this morning. First of all, it was announced last week that Disney Cruise Line has welcomed a brand new captain. Captain Maria will now be at the helm of the Disney Wish. So we welcome her to the Disney Cruise Line fleet as a captain. I know she's worked for the cruise line for a while. Well, her quote here that Disney posted when they made the announcement is, "I'm the happiest I've ever been. I've sailed for many years, but there is something unique about Disney Cruise Line. It's unlike anything else in the industry." And I know as a guest, that is true as well. So it's great when we hear those crew members say that. And to congratulations to Captain Maria for being welcomed as a captain in the Disney Cruise Line fleet. And then the other piece of news, which is not really parks news, but there are probably a lot of you out there who will be more excited about this than I am. I don't know if Rachel is excited or not, but Disney Parks announced for all of you NFL fans out there, they're going to have new gear for Game Day, the Disney way, they say. And this is a collection that's coming out in August. That's a Champion NFL collection. It'll be available, including 32 teams. Rachel, I didn't even know there were 32 teams. So I'm sorry if that offends any football fans out there. I'm not a giant football fan. Back in the mid 90s, I was a fan of the LA Raiders. They were LA at the time. I believe they're back in Oakland now. Maybe I'm wrong on that too. Please don't yell at me if this offends you. I mean, no disrespect, but at the time, my uncle had a friend who actually played for a short time before a very serious career-ending injury. He played on the LA Raiders. So I
Oh,
loved
wow.
watching him on TV. That was super cool. But other
That's
than that, I
cool.
have no knowledge. But I did take a look at these. The first one that popped out at me is that the Dallas Cowboys shirt has Woody riding
Yeah.
Buzz on it. So that's kind of cute. And Buzz Lightyear is on the Jets shirt. I know there are some Jets fans out there because I have friends who are Jets fans that I believe listen to the podcast. Did you see any others?
Yeah, so Wreck-It Ralph is on the New York Giants shirt, and then
Uh-huh.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Captain Hook. They I thought this was all very creative, and you have Captain America for the Patriots. I really liked seeing Darth Vader for the Raiders. I don't watch so I live in the South for all of our listeners where SEC is king here. We are much more into college football than we are into
Right.
professional football.
Uh-huh.
So, not something that appeals directly to me, but I did think what a great collaboration and there was a lot of intention behind a lot of the characters that were chosen for it. So, they've only released, from what I can see, a couple of characters unless that is already up on the website. I have not gone to look for to see what every team had for representation, but I really did. I thought that was a lot of them are very cute and clever.
Yeah, I only looked at the announcement. I didn't look to see if
Yeah.
there are any more out there. But for all of you football fans, you can get some new gear heading into this season. So hopefully someone out there is excited for that. I'm
Yeah,
sure they will
I
be.
hope so.
So I just figured we'd mention it because, here at a Disney Life podcast, it's not just about going to the parks and resorts. It's about bringing that Disney magic home and how you could experience it every day of your life and try to keep that happiness that you do have and the magic you have at the Disney parks and destination going with you daily. So if it's a shirt and a football team combined for that crossover, that's great. So,
Yes.
alrighty. Rachel, was there anything else you wanted to chat about, or should we go ahead and get right into today's trip report?
Well, I believe we can go ahead and get right into today's trip report, although we do have D23 coming up very soon. That I just want
Mhm.
to remind all of our listeners that Missy and I will be doing a recap episode about what is announced at D23. And I know we're both excited about it because typically there are a lot of great announcements. Not all of them may come to actuality, but it's still fun to see how all the Imagineers and the planners and the CEOs, how they're all still dreaming about things to come to all the Disney destinations around the world. But with that, I can't wait to hear about Club 33 because I've never been and I don't know if I ever will be able to go. So I can't wait to get into today's episode and hear about your experience there.
So, if you tuned in last week, you heard us talk about my recent Disneyland trip. And there were a few things that we did at Disneyland that I thought maybe deserved an episode of their own. So, I didn't speak much of those last week, and we went ahead and decided to do an entire episode this week about World of Color and Club 33. So, World of Color, if you're not familiar with it, is a nighttime show that is performed at Disney's California Adventure Park. And while this show is available for all guests to see at no cost, there are certainly places where it's better to view from than others. And in true Disney fashion, they give us the opportunity to pay for that improved experience. So that is what we opted to do. It is not something I would say is necessary at all if you have seen the show before from a good vantage point. But for this trip in particular, we considered it. Well, I will say it's a once in a lifetime trip, not meaning that we will never go back, but meaning that it is something my children have anticipated for many, many years. And we had to work hard to make happen. And we're just thrilled that we finally were able to get there. So I wanted to make this a very, very memorable trip for them. And I decided that it was worth the cost. So it is pretty pricey. The cost for the World of Color dessert party that's available is $94 a person. And keep in mind, that's not a meal, that's just desserts. So when you put it that way, Rachel, clearly you're paying for the experience here, right? You're
Oh,
not paying for the
yeah,
meal. There
absolutely.
there are a few meals I'd be wanting to pay $94 for, although once we move on to Club 33, the $94 isn't gonna seem too bad to some people.
Yeah.
So, this show is performed most nights, I believe, probably all well, maybe not all nights, but I think most nights year round at Disney's California Adventure. There may be some exceptions. The dessert party is able to be booked 60 days ahead of time through the Disneyland app. It was very easy to do. So, as you know, if you listened last week, we had a pretty big party. We were a party of 7, which for seating purposes, I consider a big party. I know a lot of
Mhm.
people travel with far more people at a time. We often travel with groups as well, but I was curious how they would seat a party of 7. So that was my first concern. My second concern was how much would we actually be able to see for what we're paying and what was the cost? Was that cost going to really offset the experience? So they also have a virtual queue option there. And that's the way most people, I think, choose to view the show if they choose to be close for it. And there are pros and cons of that. The pros would be that it's free. Anybody can join the virtual queue at noon from in the park there. It works very much, I believe, just like the virtual queues we're used to at Disney World through the Disney app there. So, a pretty easy process and absolutely free to use. The catch with that is it is standing room only. And the World of Color show is performed on a lake because this is a projection show on fountains. And the view around the lake is really only from one side because on the other side, it's the backside of water and it is
Yeah,
not a projections.
it's a great way to put it. But yes,
You
that's
see what I
right.
did there? It's not the seventh wonder of the world there, though. Or eighth wonder of the world. Anyway, so the virtual queue seating is not seating. It's just standing room only. And all it takes is one person taller than you to pretty much completely block things. It's similar to standing in front of the castle, but much more difficult because instead of looking up at a grand, tall thing in front of you, you're looking at something that's kind of almost on eye level, it seems.
Mhm.
Even from our seating, we ended up not being able to see some of the show. So when you
Wow.
so they have a leveled, like tiered patio, I would call it, almost sidewalk, but I think they may call it patio. I'm not entirely certain. that is positioned perfectly in front of where these projections take place. You would think, oh, let's get there early and try to be the front seat, but or the front standing position if you're in the virtual queue. But there's a catch to that as well, because you will get wet during the show. This is actual water, and the wind and breeze will blow, and you will end up wet the closer you are. So I really haven't decided what I think the best spot to watch this from would be. It may not be either of these options, and just kind of like further back and on your own passing by and walking around the lake there, because I just don't know if there's an ideal place. So you do have options to see the show, of course, if you do not pay. But as I said, we did opt to pay and make the reservations for the show. There are no refunds unless the show is canceled. So they do cancel for various reasons, most likely inclement weather. But you can't just get there and say, I don't want to be here, or, my view is not good enough. Like, you agree to get what you get when you make your
Yeah.
reservation. You do have to pay in full at the time of booking as well. So that's full payment needed at the time you make your reservation for your entire party. The cancellation policy is the day prior. So you would want to cancel by the day before if you decide not to attend, and you are able to get a refund that way. They have a couple seating options for this area. They have regular top tables, and then they have high top tables. I personally prefer just a regular height table than a high top table, simply because my knees get sore easily. And I feel like when I'm sitting at a high top table, that happens easier. It may just depend entirely on the type of chair or stool you're on, but I was very excited to see that we actually were able to make a request whether we wanted a regular table or a high top table.
Oh,
So
that is good.
I appreciated that. So
Yeah.
I'll talk a little bit through the process leading up to it here. So I had talked to my trip report last week. We were in the park that evening, went back to the park because we wanted to do just a couple things, including World of Color. If you're inside the park that night, you are able to start checking in. I believe the show that night was 9 o'clock, and I think 6:30 was the earliest we were able to check in for it, which was very early.
That
And
is
we
very
had
early.
Yeah, and we had decided we wanted to go and see the lights come on at Radiator Springs again. So we were actually in that area of the park, and I figured, well, once we get back in there, I'll check in and we'll see how long it takes. And they tell you ahead of time in an email that they'll give you different text messages to tell you, okay, we know you're checked in, and now it's time to work your way there, and so on. Very typical for what we're all used to for like a mobile reservation. So I had anticipated, since they said to arrive at 8:15, that checking in at around 7:45 would be plenty early. And it was, because I checked in when we walked into that park, and at 7:45 got a message telling me my table was ready. But at that point we were already
Wow.
in Carsland waiting to see the lights come on there. So I said, well, we'll just risk it and see what happens. They won't give away our table as long as we make it there by showtime, but we didn't want to be too late either. So we arrived there by 8:15, right at 8:15, I think, which I think is pretty appropriate because that was the original time that we were told to get there. Many people were already seated. So it seems like a lot of people were more eager to get in there than I was, but I knew we'd be seated for the length of the show. So, and I wanted to enjoy the rest of the park. I didn't want to miss more things to do this experience.
Absolutely, yes, yeah, yeah.
So when we got there, our text message had told us about the different areas to arrive in. They have different entrances for these outdoor patios where they seat everybody. So it told us which one to go to, which is the one directly across from the Little Mermaid ride. Very easy to find. It had a sign there and a cast member, and the cast member just confirmed that I received the message and let us right in. When we got to the bottom of the little ramp area there was another cast member there to check for our reservation, and they had already pre-assigned us seating. So that was excellent. That told me it didn't matter that we didn't rush there. It's not necessary to rush there. Your table will be held for you that you've paid for. With our party of 7, they actually had a split between 2 tables, which I was a little bit sad about, but I'm not surprised. Like, I don't know what
Mhm.
else I really could have expected them to do. They could have shoved tables together, but it wasn't really necessary. And the seating was close enough that we were kind of able to position our chairs to be able to chat with most of our group anyway. So didn't really make a difference. But I know we've talked here before somewhat controversially about if you're visiting one of the Disney restaurants and you have a large party, break it down to smaller reservations. They may be able to seat you together, which of course is just a bonus, not something we expect. This was opposite of that because we had one reservation for seven, but they split us into two
Oh,
separate days.
wow, okay. I mean, I understand when you have the purpose of this is to see a show.
Right.
Putting tables together isn't going to be an option, but it does surprise me that they let you make a reservation for that large of a party if they weren't going to be able to accommodate
Able
a
to
table
seat
for
you
that large.
together. So, yes.
Yeah.
And for us, it worked fine. My children are nearly adults at this point, and we had 4 adults in our group, so it wasn't a big deal at all. I could see, though, if you were a mom and dad with a few little kids, it would have been a little more difficult to handle, but again, if we had questioned it when we arrived, they probably could have accommodated something. It was not a problem for us at all. We didn't mind, and I actually had a really nice time being able to sit with just Jen and Heidi because while
Mhm.
this trip was about getting my kids there, my friends Jen and Heidi came because they wanted to be there and experience with me and my girls for the first time. So it was nice for us to have a little bit of girls' time separate from them and have our own chat time and be able to hang out because we don't see each other very often. We pretty much only see each other when we're traveling together. So it ended up being ideal the way it worked out, but I was a little surprised at first. So the tables were up against a railing. So the table that Jen and Heidi and I were at, we had 3 seats around a table for 4 because the front of the table was against the railing. The
Okay.
table that my kids and my cousin Jen were seated at, that table was like the same size as ours, but they squeezed 4 chairs around that. So it's definitely your close quarters there. They've tried to fit in as many people as they possibly could to this experience while still leaving just enough room of a pathway between us and the table behind us to be able to safely pass through in the case of emergency or something. But you're crammed in there. So like I said, I really preferred to have the lower table. What do you even call that? Is there a name for that? Like, I know there's a high top.
I
Is
don't
it a
know.
low top? I mean, it doesn't seem
Standard.
low. Like, yes, standard. Well, let's go with standard then, because that sounds good. So the standard high tables. So then we had a row of guests behind us who were seated at the high top table. So it was positioned very well. They were able to see over our heads, and it worked out great. But once all of those people filled in that space for the virtual queue in front of us, and we were actually seated in our seats, it was probably at least a quarter of the fountain I could not see, if not a third of it. It was, I could see more than half, but not a whole lot more than half once the show started. So it was a little disappointing to kind of miss a lot of what was going on. And again, I realized we could have had the higher table. I would have been able to see more, but this is an option that was put out there. And, I expected a pretty good view. I wasn't disappointed in it, but don't go there thinking you're gonna have a front row seat and be able to see it all fabulously because you're not. You
Yeah.
can absolutely see enough to get the gist. You still hear all of the music. Occasionally, I got sprinkled with a little bit of water, and I was glad I wasn't any closer. But other than that, it worked out great. So when we first arrived and they seated us, they did assign a server to our 2 tables. She was absolutely fantastic, a lot of fun. One of those cast members that just really seems to love their job, and we had a great time with her. She took us to our table and they brought over boxes for us. So this is not the type of party that you might see at Magic Kingdom where you have a buffet of desserts. This is something where everything is pre-boxed for you, which I absolutely love for several reasons. First of all, it would have been a royal pain to have to get up and try to go get snacks during this. And second of all, the box made for a very handy to go container because I would imagine most people aren't going to eat everything contained in the box. So it was a super cute, solid box. Like it wasn't like a flimsy to go container type thing. It could be a keepsake box if you had cleaned it out that night and wanted to be able to keep it. Beautiful World of Color design logo on the front of it. When you opened it, it was divided into 3 little sections, which I appreciated because I am a person who doesn't like the icky food touching the food that I like. Okay. So, and by the icky food, I mean things like pickles. And there was a
Okay.
little pickle in there. So I would not, if that pickle had touched my macaron, that would have spoiled my night. So
Yeah.
thank
Well, that wouldn't
goodness
taste good
that did
either.
not happen.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's being too particular to not want your desserts mixed with your your salty, like your more savory items. So in the left portion of the box were all of the desserts. There were four of them available. There was some type of little cupcake type thing, a macaron, a Rice Krispie treat, and some other type cake thing that I forget right now. I know they had the full menu online. Like it told us when we were making the reservation what the desserts available were. So perhaps I should just look at that for a second here quick while I'm talking to you. Because I did have it opened ahead of time. Yep, there's some. It was a cookie cup. They called it chocolate cake bite topped filled cookie cup, whatever that is.
Okay.
So my
Huh.
explanation may have actually been better than that.
Okay.
Then on the right side of it, there were a few charcuterie items with some cheeses and pickles and that type of thing. So I'm not really a big. I wasn't in a cheese mood. Didn't like the pickles and the other stuff in there. There were some individually packed crackers that were wrapped in plastic, so they were not stale. That was nice. And they had
Mhm.
some cute little like bamboo wooden silverware. I know it's not silverware, but whatever you would call that. It's not
Okay.
plasticware either, but utensils. That's my word
Yeah.
so that you were able to use that to eat everything. And then there was also a commemorative pin, a World of Color pin, which was really cute, just a little added bonus of something to take along with you. So I overall, I think it was really well put together. Do I think I would want to pay $94 a person for it again? Probably not now that we've done it. But again, this was a special experience for us. This isn't
Yes.
something I think everybody who's going needs to do. It was a great show, but I have seen it personally before, and I didn't really feel like this experience made it that much more worth it, but the kids absolutely loved it. So that was great. Along with it, you also get beverages, of course, not just your box of snacks. So our server asked us what we preferred, and she had a whole list of options. There were sodas and lemonade and tea and hot chocolate and coffee. And then there were also some alcoholic options. They had one type of like a mixed drink cocktail type thing. And then there was, I think they had beer and wine, but I'm not sure because I wasn't really interested in beer or wine that night. We did get the cocktails. So she brought us that. Then she continued to bring us more cocktails, more hot chocolate. She brought us lemonade. We basically had any type of drink you could want
Oh,
for the
wow.
duration was on our table. Our little table was absolutely full of beverages. So that was really sweet of her. We didn't have to worry about going thirsty. She checked
Yeah.
on us several times. It was very attentive service. So that was a fantastic experience there. I think I pretty much covered everything there is to go along with it. The show started promptly at 9 o'clock. As soon as it was over, they kind of rush everybody out of there because the park was closing that night. So the show was at 9. The park usually closes at 10. That night, there happened to be a special event that the park was closing down for at 9 o'clock. So they were rushing everybody right out of there. We tried to go to the restrooms that are located over by oh my goodness, what's the ride? It's like comparable to Barnstormer, but it's not Barnstormer. I forget what it's Sky School, Goofy Sky School, maybe
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
There's a restroom by that, which was not far from where we were. They turned us around and wouldn't let us go in that direction.
Oh,
And then
no.
there was another bathroom that was on the way, and they were trying to shoo us by that too. But we're like, can we please just use it before we have to walk out of here? Because our lovely server just gave us like 17 drinks each. So we needed to run to the restroom. But anyway, it was a great experience. If you're looking for a very special event there at Disneyland, at Disney's California Adventure, I would definitely say I'm glad that we did it. It's not something I need to jump to repeat, but they did a fantastic job for what it was. And whoever came up with the idea of doing the boxes of treats rather than the buffet table, that's fantastic. I don't think it could possibly be done any better than how they did it. So that's my take on that. Have you ever seen it, Rachel? Have you been to or done the dessert party or anything out there?
I have not done the dessert party. I have seen it, but it's been years since I've seen
Mhm.
it, and not because I haven't seen it again, not because it wasn't good. It was a very good show. I couldn't tell you why I haven't seen it again, but it's been a long time since I have seen it. I do have a quick question. Did you happen to notice the crowd standing around? Was it one of those things? Like, I just think of seeing Cinderella's castle around fireworks time. And
Mhm.
one thing that I absolutely dislike about the castle projections is that it forces the crowd into one location where when it was just fireworks, even though it's nice to
Mhm.
have the castle as the center backdrop, you can see it from multiple parts and still feel like you've gotten the entire show. Now with the
Right.
projections, you have to be right there. So I don't like the madhouse of what is Main Street during that time period. And so how did you feel like the rest of the crowding was? Did you Were there plenty of spaces to go and stand? Could you even tell from where you were sitting?
It was like sardines. It looked horrendous, and quite
Okay, well, there
honestly,
you go.
yeah. So when I was there in November, not with my family, but on a business trip when I was there, we did have a night at California Adventure, and we were in that virtual queue area. And we got in there and we're so uncomfortable in there, and we're so shaded from being able to even see where the water was that we actually left and did
Okay,
not stay to watch the show. We went over to the San Francisco area and sat and got some snacks at a quick service restaurant where we could hear the music of the show and kind of see it across the way in the distance. Like you could see it was happening, but not well. The virtual queue area for what it is absolutely packed. I honestly didn't look back behind me. So behind me is where the walkway would be that goes around the lake, basically between the lake and the Little Mermaid ride. I don't know if they allow people to stand there or not, or if they keep it
yeah.
moving. So
Yeah, I
that's a
was
good
gonna say they probably don't allow they do a great job, cast members do, of keeping those walkways clear for guests in case of emergency and just to keep traffic
question.
flowing because not everybody who walks by is interested in seeing the show, but again, if it closed at 9 p.m., if you're in that area, you are there to see the
You're getting
show,
moved
you're not.
along. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anybody out there has any pro tips for us on a better
Yeah.
place to sit, because I have a feeling this is one of those things like there's a place out there that's ideal to watch this from, and we just haven't found it yet. I'd be very interested in hearing. So, I mean, let me know. We don't have to tell all of our listeners if you want us to keep it hush hush. We will go check it out to be thorough, though. So, I guess now let's get into Club 33
Okay.
because that's probably what most people have the most interest in here. So, or maybe you're sitting there thinking, what's Club 33?
Yeah.
So, because it's kind of an exclusive thing that not everybody gets to participate in, so it's not super well known. So, Rachel, do you wanna I think you had, like, a little bit of a history on Club 33
Yeah,
for people.
so of course I'll talk about just a little bit. So I know last week I mentioned that this is kind of the one of the ultimate Disney bucket list items. I would say this one and staying in the Cinderella's Castle suite are tied for my top 2 items because I
Ugh,
feel like I have just as much likelihood of a chance to do one as I do the other. So
stop.
this would be absolutely a dream thing. So Club 33 is a private membership club that was founded by Walt Disney himself. Unfortunately, he passed away before he actually got to see it come to its fruition. But membership is difficult to come by. I cannot tell you the process of getting membership other than you do have to fill out an application, but there is a long wait list to be a member of Club 33. So this was designed as a place where Roy and Walt Disney could entertain prestigious guests. They wanted to have a great restaurant location inside of the park for when they had sponsors come in. We know over the since it's been open, presidents have eaten there, foreign dignitaries have eaten there. This is kind of the creme de la creme, the place you want to go. And this is a 5-star restaurant. This isn't something that when you go in, you're going to be disappointed by the experience. It's supposed to be an experience itself. So, the name, there are 2 different stories for the possibility of where the name 33 comes in into Club 33. Now, the location, this is located in Disneyland itself, right where the area of Cafe Orleans and the French Market restaurants are located in New Orleans Square. There is a door with kind of like a doorbell and a 33 above it. And if you know what to look for, you can find it easily. But as far as the name goes, officially, Disney says that this was named because of just the address on Royal Street of where it's located. That's Disney's official word. However, there's also an unofficial explanation that sometimes you might get from a cast member. We don't know what the truth is, but from 1966 to 1967, there were a total of 33 corporate sponsors for Disneyland itself. You may have noticed and this seems to be less and less over the last couple of years that a lot of the attractions were sponsored by different corporations. Some of them still are sponsored by corporations. And so Disneyland from 66 to 67 had 33 different sponsors. So that's also an impressive list. From 66 to
Uh-huh.
67, there were 33 sponsors for Disneyland itself. So that's another possibility of where the name comes from. But this is definitely, not only do you have to have a wait list, but if you plan on dining there, the reason why I said I have just as much chance of staying in Cinderella's Castle Suite is because you have to know someone who has a membership in order to dine there. And then it becomes a possibility of getting a reservation. If you are going to dine there, they do have a pretty strict dress code that they would like for guests to adhere to. And they also have a very strict photography policy too. So you can only photograph public areas. You cannot photograph the restrooms whatsoever, which I no complaints there. I'd rather not be photographed in a restroom. And I don't think they allow photography or videography of food. Is that correct?
Well, Rachel, you were correct about everything you said until that,
Okay.
actually. So
Okay.
that
Well,
was a
there you
very
go.
good. I mean, you had so much to say about it. I'm starting to think you were the one that was there and not me. You know an awful lot from your research. So well done. Very thorough there. Back to the naming of it. I feel like there's got to be more to it than just the street name because I mean they named the streets themselves. So come on.
Yeah.
Like they assigned those numbers. They knew what they were doing there. But
Yes.
still fun. And with the way that we have continuously seen little Easter eggs through the years, of special symbolism of things hidden throughout Disney's movies and attractions, of course, it's something that you would expect there to be more of a story to. So I will choose to believe that it is due to the 33 corporate sponsors that Walt was looking to wine and dine during those times. It was also a pretty well known thing that it was the only place in that park where you were able to get alcohol.
Okay.
So Disneyland Park was an alcohol-free park for a very, very long time. Walt wanted it to be a family-friendly park and did not seem to want to be inviting in chaos that can come along with excessive alcohol usage. So, but apparently the people he was wining and dining wanted the wine part of the dine as well. So they did serve alcohol in Club 33, even when it was not served anywhere else in a Disney park. So Rachel gave us a really good description of everything leading up to basically when we arrived. So I will kind of go through and tell you what our experience was in there. As Rachel said, there is a little doorbell, kind of like a speaker call box. I've even seen people online compare it to like the kind of thing you would have seen at a speakeasy that, you know, you have to buzz in and talk to somebody to get in there. So that was one of the things I was looking forward to the most, being able to push that button and give them my name and actually have them come open the door. That did happen, but it was a little bit spoiled for me
Oh, no.
because we got there a little early and we didn't want to bother them early. So we were waiting outside and they came out to check on us. So unless it's not clear, I am not a member of Club 33. I was invited by a member of Club 33 who was so gracious to offer to make me reservations for this special trip for my daughter. They do have a main dining room where members are able to make reservations for their guests, even if they're not present. And then they do have a separate lounge area that they've built also where the member must be present. That's like a members only type thing. A member can take a guest in there with them, but they need to be present for them. The club was actually redone a few years back. So I remember going into the entrance of it. I believe it was August of 2012. I was there on a tour where we got to enter the original area for it where there was an elevator. I have a photo of me with an elevator. That is not where it's located anymore. It moved down the street just a little bit. And now when you push the button to enter, you enter into a beautiful outdoor area, actually. So you're not walking in the door into the actual club. You're walking into a reception area and then into an outdoor garden area. So we were standing out there and they come and open the door. And I'm sure there was like a camera and they were watching us and seeing what was happening out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Because as Rachel mentioned, there is a dress code. So we were dressed quite differently than most other people in the park. They don't want you going in there in t-shirts and jeans or cutoffs or even shorts, really. So we were in dresses and dressed appropriately. And did not look, we had heels on. People were looking at us funny. So as they were walking by, like, why are those people standing there? So the cast member comes out, asks us if we were there to dine. I don't know if she was wondering if their bell wasn't working or what, but I said, yes. I'm like, but actually, I really would like to ring the doorbell. So if you can
Yeah.
just go back inside and then I will ring the doorbell, if you can just answer, that would be great. So she was laughing at me. She was so gracious and sweet and very helpful. So we did go through that whole process of me being able to give my name through the speaker and being let in, but it was a little bit, it wasn't exactly as magical as I thought it would be. Our own blunder for showing up too early and being so in the way of everything, I guess is what you could say.
So dressed up. So what I'm hearing is just dress up and go to the park and loiter around the Club 33
That's
entrance,
really, and maybe
and
they'll open the
maybe,
door for you.
maybe I can get
Yeah. If we had said, "No, we don't belong here and don't have a reservation," she would not have been so gracious. I don't
yes.
think. Would have been like, "Move along because we have other guests coming here." So anyway, rang the doorbell, got in there. They checked us in. They explained to us how we would be going upstairs for our dining. They explained to us the rules, which you had started to mention. So they do allow photography inside the club and of the food and in the dining room. The thing is, this is supposed to be a place where these VIPs can go and relax, right? So they
Mhm.
don't want to be bothered. They don't want to be photographed. So you're only allowed to photograph your own group. You cannot be photographing anybody at any other table. And there is no videography allowed at all inside the club. So just photos, no videos. And as Rachel had mentioned, you cannot take photos or videos in the bathroom. Apparently, this is because there is a law against that in the state of California, which I was shocked to hear, but it really is a thing. So I don't know if that's really Disney's reason for having this rule, but it is a rule nonetheless. And they were very, very clear on it. Even when the member who made the reservation for me touched base with me ahead of time to let me know about the rules, the bathroom photo and videography was the big thing. It wasn't like our behavior or anything like that. It was like, no, dress appropriately, no photos in the bathroom. So we did
Well,
abide by that, of course.
so I wanna mention too, I think there's obviously a privacy and safety concern with photography
Yes,
in the bathroom,
absolutely.
but if you're not aware, yes, there are entire probably websites you can find dedicated to what some of the restrooms inside Walt Disney World look like and
I
what some
follow that on Instagram. It's
yeah.
great. The Walt Disney World bathroom thing. Yes. Hmm.
And I know you and I probably have some of our favorites that we prefer to go to and have a
Yeah,
restroom break, so, it
absolutely.
would not surprise me at all, and, I can attest when I was in Fort Lauderdale and went to the luau before our cruise with Royal Caribbean, I wish I had taken my phone into the bathroom because I was so impressed with the design of the bathroom.
Of the bathroom.
I
Well,
wouldn't
there
have
you
taken a
go.
photo had anybody else been in there, but, yeah, so
Well, you can do
this
that in Florida, Rachel, but you
yeah,
cannot do that in California.
good
So
to
don't even
know.
give it a try. Yes. So we entered into this outdoor garden area, which is called the Court of Angels. Now, the Court of Angels used to actually be open to everyone in the theme park before they did this refurbishment. So it is now just part of the entrance of Club 33. They have a beautiful big staircase that leads upstairs. They did give us the option of if we wanted to use an elevator or go up the staircase, but of course we chose to go up the stairs because that was the pretty option. They
Yeah.
greeted us with cooling towels because it was pretty warm out and we were dressed nicely. So they gave us that option to use some cooling towels before going upstairs. And then they led us up to the doors that enter the dining room. It's set up very much like any restaurant would be with a podium and a cast member there. And they showed us to our seats. On the way, we did pass a counter with a cabinet with merchandise in it, and they let us know that after we finished our dining experience, we'd be able to go out and purchase merchandise if we wanted to. So that was something we had highly anticipated. This is merchandise that is only available in Club 33 for people who are dining and experiencing the restaurant and club. They did have some pretty interesting artwork and memorabilia. There was one table in particular that really stood out, and they actually mentioned to us that this table piece was used, it's a marble top table, and it was used in Mary Poppins in the Banks home. And
Okay.
I did go back after and take a quick look at the movie, and I did see that exact table was in the movie. You could see it in the scene when the cannons are going off and the things are shaking all over on the walls and things are moving around. This table was one of the things that you could see in the background of that. So having that memorabilia there is pretty cool, and it's full of that kind of stuff. And there was some artwork with, is it Leota tunes? It's the from the Haunted Mansion, the woman in the ball of the Haunted Mansion, there was
Yeah.
artwork there of her, so it was very cool to see all of the memorabilia that they had on display. So they lead us down this long hallway, and out we come into the dining room area. It's a decent sized dining room, but it's not huge by any means. It's a smaller club. And they do have a balcony outside of it. And they did offer to us after we finished our meal, we were able to go out on the balcony and look. And the view from in the club is looking out to the river. You could see the Mark Twain boat out there, Tom Sawyer Island in the distance. And then, of course, below, all of the guests walking to and fro around the park, experiencing their day. So it was easy to forget that you were inside of a theme park when we were in there dining because it was such an elevated experience. And I know you and I have experienced many different table service restaurants that are more than what you would anticipate in a typical theme park before. There are many around Disney. There's Be Our Guest over at the Magic Kingdom. There are many in
Yeah.
Epcot, of course, around World
Yeah.
Showcase. So it's not too odd, but this was kind of a level above because, of course, it is what it is to begin with. It was a place that you knew Walt had been and spent a lot of his time in. And everybody was dressed up nice, and it just put everything to another level for the whole experience. So they seated us. They brought over little stools for our handbags if we wanted. They brought us the menus, of course, and explained to us that this was a four-course meal. That is a fixed price meal. You were able to choose one selection from each of the offerings. From the first two courses, then there was an entree and then the dessert finale. It does change seasonally there. They had actually just wrapped up an Alice in Wonderland overlay theme there right before we had gotten
Yeah.
there. And I believe it's a totally different menu. We experienced a totally different menu than what that Alice in Wonderland is. And at the point when we were there, it was an Americana type theme. They were celebrating America 250. It was just after 4th of July. And I believe that's kind of just a temporary fill in theme until they get into whatever's next, which could be anything. I mean, I've heard of years that it's been Haunted Mansion. There's times it's been Tiki Room. They change it up there
Well, that's
frequently because
fun. Yeah.
of course, they're catering to their members who
Yeah.
frequent there. So for the members, having it changed up a little bit, I'm sure is encouraging for them to come back and experience it and enjoy it and give them different things to enjoy. So this is not the type of thing where your meal is just included with a reservation or a membership. Obviously, you're paying for your meal. So it was $165 per person. That was before the tip and the tax. So you can do the math on that if you would like. That is the fixed price there for this meal. For the first course, there was an heirloom tomato option that had some peaches along with it and goat cheese. There was a shrimp cocktail with avocado. There was some kind of veal, I think. And also, if you wanted to add for an upcharge of $175, there was caviar.
Uh, wow. Okay.
I opted not for the caviar,
I
honestly.
good decision.
And I actually took our server's advice. Our server had recommended if there wasn't really something on the first course menu that was jumping out at us, a lot of people like to get the cheese platter that's available as a dessert, and they use that
Okay.
as a starter. And that's what I ended up doing. And I absolutely loved it because one of my favorite types of cheeses is like a cheddar with a cranberry in it. And they had a delicious cheddar cheese with a little dish of cranberry jam that was absolutely fabulous. And I loved it. So that worked out ideal for me. There were four different kinds of cheeses. They came out and explained to us what they each were. A couple people at the table got that, a few others got the other options. And of course, everything was delicious. Nobody went hungry while we were there. For the second course, there was potato soup, and I don't remember what else, but there was a bacon, and it was like a big hunk of braised bacon. And I mean, I love bacon, right?
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure what to expect for this. Like I've had it in different places where they'll do like the brown sugar pepper bacon that it's thin and crispy, and then I've had other places it's thick. I remember having it years ago at Magic Kingdom when it was like bacon on a stick. There was a thick piece of bacon. I don't know if they still have it.
I don't yeah,
This
that's
wasn't that long ago. Like, I would say within, I don't know, maybe 5 to 8 years-ish ago.
okay.
It wasn't good. It was really fatty and yucky at Magic Kingdom. It was like at one of the places over by where you can get popcorn, like in Adventureland, no, Frontierland it was, I think. Anyway, this was not like that though. This was absolutely delicious. I could not even finish the whole thing because it felt like too much bacon to me. So right off
Okay,
the bat,
wow.
I knew that I was in good hands and was at least going to get a lot of food for the cost of what the
Yeah.
meal was.
Sounds like it, my goodness, and for a course with soup in the mix to give you a hunk of bacon too, that's
Mhm.
interesting.
And then for the entrees, they had a sustainable fish. They had a ravioli that had tomato, like a tomato sauce with it, and some kind of arugula filling, I think it was. I don't know, I didn't get that, but it looked really good. Somebody else at the table got it. Then there was a Colorado lamb porterhouse, I have noted, is what I actually ordered, and lamb is not typically what I'd go for. And this is only the second time in my life I've tried lamb, but I figured I would give it a try. And then the other option was an American Wagyu beef salad, and a couple people at the table got the salad also. So the lamb porterhouse was very good. And of course, they cook it as to your preferred temperature. So that was very good. I got it medium. We all were just like absolutely full at this point of the meal.
Yeah.
And of course, they were bringing us drinks also. The drinks were not included. So I think it
Okay.
was around 550 for a soft drink. And they had coffee for around the same price. And of course, a whole giant wine list. But it was warm. It was the middle of the day, and I just wasn't feeling like having any wine or anything, or even a cocktail at that point. So, plus, I really didn't need to spend any extra money.
Yeah, I was
So
about to say there that price, I'm sure they have a very extensive wine list with also a
they do.
very high price list too.
So we didn't want to overstay our welcome too long. I mean, I
Yeah.
probably could have spent the whole afternoon there sipping away, but we did not do that. But along with our dessert, I did want to try a latte because one of the things many of us love about Disney Cruise Line is when you get the beautiful little artwork on the top of their coffees. And at Club 33, they put a 33 on top.
That's
That
cute.
was something that I thought would be super adorable and I wanted to try. So I knew ahead of time I wanted to try that. And I thought I didn't want to be drinking alcohol if I was going to have coffee too. That would be like a lot mixed
Yeah.
around for me and not something I'm really accustomed to. So they had a plum crisp for dessert and there was a peach option. I got what was a coffee chocolate cheesecake, which was absolutely delicious. And Rachel, I love to eat and I love desserts. I couldn't finish it all. Like there
Oh,
wasn't
wow.
you had enough food and it was filling enough food. I didn't finish it all. So, and then of course there was the same cheese platter, which one of my kids actually got for the dessert too. There was honeycomb on that too, which was
Ooh,
really
yes,
delicious.
that's always
That was
good.
really good. So, a couple of us ordered coffees because we thought that sounded great. And it was. It was the perfect finish for our
And
meal.
it prolongs the meal just a little bit, you know?
Right, just a little bit. We kind of drug things out a little bit there. When we had arrived at first, they asked us if why we were there. Were we celebrating anything special? And I did say, I could have rattled off a whole list of reasons that this trip was special. But because this trip was centered around my kids and everything was about them, and I had friends who so graciously made the trip out there just to make this special for my kids, and it just so happened to be their birthday that week. I told them that we were there to celebrate Heidi and Jen's birthdays because we were also
Mhm.
celebrating them. I was not going to make it all about my kids. So I was absolutely thrilled when and shocked and surprised when they came out with a special birthday dessert for them. Which was really special. And then they brought them a gift.
Oh.
They brought them each a gift in a gift bag. And I think it was like a little keychain. I noticed it was $30 at the gift shop, whatever it was. So
But
that
still.
was especially generous, I thought. And they
Yes.
gave them a card that the cast members who work there in the club all signed. And to me, that was just one of the best moments of the trip because it made it so special for them. And it was so special to be that they were there that it was such a special moment. And I know I just said special a million times, but it really but, I didn't go in there anticipating them to do anything extra for us because the extra was just the fact that we were there. So the cast members going above and beyond to make my guests who were with me feel special just made it a really amazing, amazing time.
Yeah.
So we did make a few trips to the bathroom during our meal because we were there about 2 hours and 45 minutes total. So it was
Wow.
a long experience. So I would say about 2 hours, I think we were in the dining room experiencing our meal. And then we spent quite a while shopping because it's not like a typical shopping experience. But anyway, I'll cover bathrooms first and then I will talk about the shopping. So I did visit the restroom a couple times because we were having a lot of beverages. and the bathrooms were something else. I'm not really sure what to compare them to, and I can't show them to you,
Yeah.
obviously, but they were very decorative and lots of floral decor. The faucets were, I think they were ducks. There was like duck handles somewhere strange. It was very ornate, very, very not my typical style.
Yeah.
I felt more out of place in the bathroom than I felt in the dining room.
Okay.
So, and we were discussing the bathrooms after the fact, and the only male along with us was my daughter's boyfriend, Avery, and he did go into the restroom at one point, and the way he described his sounded nothing like ours. So now I kind of wish, I'm like, man, it's too bad you don't have photos because I kind of
Yeah.
want to see what that's like.
Probably just like a mirror and just tile, just standard
Right.
subway tile.
Yeah.
Nothing for the men.
So when you enter the ladies' room, there is like a chaise lounge there. There is a large vanity area with a mirror if you needed to fix yourself up some. They did have mouthwash and floss picks in there if you were
Okay.
in need of those following your meal. And then I think they had three different bathroom stalls with, large doors. It was very fancy. It was
Yeah.
basically what you would expect it to be. The club itself has so much gorgeous woodwork and trim all over the place. The moldings are gorgeous. It just feels very luxurious for being in a theme park. So I didn't quite think the bathroom really matched, but I guess it's what it's supposed to be. How would I know?
Yeah,
Really? Like
right.
I don't know. How would I know how it should be? It's perfect, I guess, the way it is. So then after we finished our meal, we headed back down the hallway. They had a piano in there, and I didn't get a chance. I guess I forgot to ask what the history of the piano was because I was so wrapped up in everything else, and I was a little bit giddy to get shopping. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
do
I
want to
would be
research
too.
that and see if I can find anywhere because there was a piano in the hallway there that I'm certain had some significance. And I think I have a photo of it, but I didn't get to find out what the history was on it. So they have glass cabinets with items in, and they have a cast member help you, but it's kind of like one person at a time. And of course, we
Okay.
had several of us. And we were not the only people there. There were a few other guests dining in there at the same time. I think there were two tables of four and a table of 2, maybe? There were not a lot of people in the club at all. They were very attentive to us because it
Okay,
seemed
that's
like a
what
pretty
well, I was
slow
going
day
to
there.
ask how crowded was the rest of the club because with the lengthy list, I would assume that it wouldn't be crowded all the time. But with the lengthy
Right,
list
and
that I
this
know of
was
people
lunchtime.
trying to get
I
in.
mean,
Yeah.
so we were there at 11:30 in the morning. I'm sure it's more crowded in the evenings and on weekends,
Yeah.
so for the merchandise, they had a variety of different things. On last week's episode when we recorded, I was wearing a Club 33 Spirit jersey that I purchased, so that was exciting. They had a long sleeve collared shirt. I don't know what the appropriate name for it would be, but I've always called them rugby shirts. Like a white collar with a couple buttons, like so I consider polo shirts to be short sleeve and rugby shirts to be long sleeve. And I don't know if
Okay.
that's a real thing or if I made that up in my childhood and just ran with it. Like I have an uncle who played rugby, so he had shirts that were long sleeves with stripes and white collars, and we called them rugby shirts because they were his rugby jerseys. So they had one of those with the Club 33 logo on it. That's what Avery got, which I think is a super cool shirt. I love that it was available. And there weren't really a ton of things there that I think he would have wanted because it was a lot of jewelry. So
Yeah.
I'm thrilled that he was able to get that. They did have a couple Club 33 exclusive Dooney and Burke bags. They had one that looked like a little backpack, one that was a tote bag, and then a small handbag as well as a wallet. So my Annie actually got the small purse there. So she was super excited for that. She had been saving her money for a Club 33 souvenir. She was not purchasing many souvenirs until we got there because she wanted to make sure she had enough money left to get whatever she decided she wanted there. So that is what she chose at Club 33. It's an all black bag. So it's very classic looking. She
Mhm.
could use it for hopefully years to come. They had wine glasses and all kinds of jewelry, and it was different price ranges too. So they had things from like
Okay.
150 to $175 range to thousands of dollar
Oh, I'm
range
sure.
based
I'm
on.
sure.
So, and I actually got a bracelet, which is not really typically my style. It is a gold bracelet, and I don't
Mhm.
normally wear gold things, but I just kind of like the look at it of it, and it just spells out the words Club 33, and it's just kind of like a dainty little thing. It's cute.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever actually wear it. I want to wear it, but I'm afraid I'll lose it, and then I'll have to go back and get another one. But they had some earrings, and all of the things they had were just very subtle, like little 33 on them so that you could see them. They had a few watches, a Mickey watch and a Club 33 watch, and they were both pretty cool. They had a couple jackets, like a lightweight puffer jacket. It was a navy blue and it had like a gold, like monogram 33 on it. And that looked pretty cool too. We didn't get that, but I was very tempted. And they had one that kind of was like so the I think the man's version of it was in the navy blue, and then the ladies' version of it was navy but had some lighter blue kind of swirled around in a design, which was pretty cool. I kind of eyed them up, but I didn't get them.
Yeah.
They had a couple button-up shirts also left from their Alice in Wonderland theme, and they had a purse that actually looks like a teacup that was left from their Alice in
Okay.
Wonderland stuff. They also had an Alice in Wonderland spirit jersey remaining from that, and my my other daughter, Gracie, decided to get the Alice in Wonderland spirit jersey that had the Club 33 design on it too. So
Okay.
Jen and Heidi each also got some things. Tammy joined us as well for this meal, and I don't think she purchased anything. If she did, I missed it somehow. But then, of course, they package everything and they're beautiful, very sturdy Club 33 shopping bags with the special tissue paper sticking out of the top. So that made for a special experience then, even after we left, because as we're walking through the parks, people were noticing them.
Of
And
course. Yes,
yes.
absolutely.
And in fact, when we got on the monorail and sat down, there was a couple who got in at the same time. They were the only other people in our car, and they looked at us, and the gentleman said, "Well, I just have to ask, did you guys just all eat at Club 33? And, how did you get in there and what it was like?" And he had a million questions for us, of course. So it was kind of fun to be noticed. I'm not normally somebody who wants to stand out, but I appreciated the fact that somebody was recognizing the fact that we had a special day. And that was really neat. You know what else they had was there was a big, I can't remember what it was called, but there is a turkey buzzard that you would probably recognize. It is from something. It is totally slipping my mind right now. I should look it up as we're talking so I could tell everybody. It's perched on top of a clock. It's a giant, like buzzard looking frightening bird. And I'm pretty sure what they told us about it is that it's an animatronic,
Okay.
and it was gonna be used to spy on people, but then they ended up not using it to spy on people. Isn't
Like
that
cameras
weird?
in it?
Yeah, yeah. See, I'm
Oh,
gonna hold this, you're probably not gonna be able to see it, Rachel. We'll put this online for anybody to see. That's the bird. It's sitting on a clock. Like, what?
that's
I mean,
terrifying.
you couldn't help but notice him. I meant to look that up ahead of time and forgot. Let me see if I could find anything online about that while we're still chatting so we could let our listeners know.
Wow. Where was this?
It was in the main lobby check-in area of the club. So the
Okay.
area where the check-in podium would be and where the
Yeah.
merchandise was available.
Huh.
And what they told us that day was that, so I don't know if it's ever been used for anything else, but what they told us was that that bird was going to be like a spy bird.
Wow. How interesting.
And we were like, what? Okay, here it is. His name is Alfred. Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. The famous taxidermied turkey vulture. I was right. Perched atop a grandfather clock in the entrance foyer of Disneyland's exclusive Club 33. And originally meant to be an interactive animatronic bird, he's now has pre recorded voices to greet members as they enter. So there you go.
Okay. Wow. So
Frightening
even
looking bird on
animatronics
top there. But
inside Club 33. I had no
yeah,
idea there were animatronics inside Club
yeah.
33.
So I did not hear him speak at all, but apparently he does still speak at times.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
yeah. So once we finished, we stopped in the bathroom yet again before we headed down the beautiful staircase there. We took a couple more photos down there in the Court of Angels before we departed. It was sad to leave, but certainly it was time to go because like I said, we spent nearly 3 hours there, which was
A lot
exciting.
of time.
They did also really welcome and almost encourage us to take photos. I think the cast members recognize what a big deal this is for many people who get to be there. And they encourage us to go ahead and take photos with our shopping bags. And there's a big, like, Club 33 like mosaic, like where a doormat would be, there's a big mosaic right outside
Okay.
the entrance of the lobby area once you get to the top of the steps. So we took photos there of the girls with their shopping bags and then again heading down the steps. And then once we got downstairs, we took more photos. There's a fountain in the area we were taking pictures of. So it was great that they understood the fact that we were really excited to be there and wanted photos of the occasion. And they welcomed us taking the photos, even during our meal. I mean, we didn't take many during the meal, but we took some of ourselves. And I have some of the kids with the view because you could see out the window behind them. We were at a table right along the front windows, and you could see out the table behind them the Mark Twain boat
Mhm.
and the river outside. So you could tell where we were, like, if you know, kind of thing. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wanted to have that photo of them. And then, of course, we did take some photos of our food because they told us we were welcome to do that. So we do have several photos to share on our social media with you also. So, all in all, it was an amazing experience. Certainly not something I think I need to do every single time I go there. However, if I'm invited, I will not ever turn it down either because
Absolutely.
it
Yes.
was amazing. So, like Rachel mentioned, it is a lengthy process to become a member. We don't know all of those details, but I do know that it includes an application and sponsors from people who are currently members. You have to know somebody to
Yeah.
get in, basically, and you have to be a lover of Disney. And I think that is the most important thing here. The people who visit there are people who absolutely love Disney, who appreciate the Disney parks and all that Walt Disney and Roy Disney had known and created for us. So that is what made it super special for me.
Well,
So,
I am so glad that you got to experience that and your girls. I mean, what a trip for them to be able to go to Disneyland for the first
no,
time and to dine at Club 33. And I know that they understood just how important and special
yes.
this was. So, they and absolutely our friends, Jen and Heidi, I know that this meant a lot to them too. Tammy, I know she's eaten at Club 33 in Walt Disney World in the
She
Magic
has,
Kingdom.
and years so Tammy has been to so there are 4 Club 33s at Walt Disney World, 1 in each of their theme parks, and there are actually 2 at Disneyland. There's the one that we were at in Disneyland Park, and then there's one near Carthay Circle in Disney's California Adventure. So Tammy had been to this one at Disneyland Park many years ago, and she has been to some of them man in the Disney World parks
Yes.
as well. So,
But either way, I know this meant a lot to her too. So
certainly,
I think that's really neat that all of you got to experience that, and hopefully something I'll be able to talk to you about my experience too, but not
I
something
would
I'm necessarily
love that.
telling on at the moment.
You
So,
just never know, Rachel, and that's part of what I love about this Disney community that we're all in because so many people know so many people, and there are just so
mhm.
many opportunities to get to know and be friendly with amazing people out there who all have the love of Disney and travel in common. So that's what we're all about here. So someday, you'll get there someday. Maybe I'll get
Someday.
to be there for it. I would love to be.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, that'd be fun, and we can have a 3-hour meal together and a great time, so I'm so thrilled for each and every one of you that you got to experience this, and check this one off of your Disney bucket list because this is a huge item to have, so thank you so much for sharing, your World of Color dessert party experience with us and Club 33 dining experience, that what an amazing, amazing opportunity. So for this week's listener question, we do have a listener question that is appropriate for both destinations, but this is particularly talking about Walt Disney World. So for Missy, or for Walt Disney World, why is a guest able to see Lightning Lane prices if their booking window isn't supposed to be open yet?
Oh, well, that's an easy one because Disney's actually letting you know ahead of time how much it's going to cost you to get that Lightning Lane. So, as a Disney World resort guest, you can book your Lightning Lane 7 days in advance for your entire stay. If you are not staying at a Disney hotel, it is 3 days in advance. But 3 weeks before each day, they will open up pricing through the app so that you can see how much you can anticipate spending if you choose to purchase Lightning Lane. I appreciate that Disney does this because it gives you the ability to kind of budget for it and decide what days you may need it and what days you may not, because of course it's something that is purchased per person by the day and not for your entire stay. So I think that's pretty handy. And then at Disneyland, of course, it's a little different in that you don't actually purchase it until you're in the park that day. So I think I talked about that a little bit in last week's episode. So that may be where this kind of stemmed from. But yes, don't be alarmed if you're able to see prices and it's not letting you book it. It will show you when your booking window opens. So when you're eligible to book your rides, it's just showing you those prices ahead of time as a little bit of a courtesy. And if you have a question for us, we'd love to hear it. You know that we're on social media trying to build things up there. You can join our Facebook group, or we are on TikTok and Instagram at a Disney Life Pod. And you can also send questions through email at podcast@storybookdestinations.com or a Disney Life at storybookdestinations.com. We always love getting our listener feedback and comments and questions. So go ahead and shoot us a line. And I'm going to wrap things up today with a little bit of a tip of the week. And it's something that I was reminded of during my recent vacation to Disneyland. I had mentioned parking at the Philadelphia airport and things were a little bit chaotic there. One thing that I recommend always doing, that I always try to remember to do, is when you are parking your car somewhere and you are leaving it there to go on a vacation, please take a photo of where you're parking your vehicle, because it will help you remember when you come back, not only which parking garage you're in, but what level you're going to be on, what section of the garage, depending on how large of an airport you're traveling from. And this can work as well when you're parking at one of the Disney parks, because if you're parking there, you have a huge parking lot you're dealing with. And at the end of that night, if you are needing to take the tram back at that transportation and ticket center, which is giant, you are going to want to know where you parked your car. So, pro tip there. I almost forgot to do it. And I was so glad that I remembered, because I can't even imagine how things would have gone when we returned at 6 a.m. that last morning after our overnight flight if I didn't know where my car was. So, I just tell you from experience. All right.
Great
Well, I
tip.
guess I guess that is about enough fun for today. So thank you so much for joining us. We always appreciate you being here and being part of our Disney life, and we hope to see you again next week.